Welcome to AI Month 2023. My name is Petra Vorsteher, co-founder of AI.HAMBURG, and I have the great pleasure to welcome to you today an exciting panel with the subject AI-powered human resources, artificial intelligence boost your workforce. I will pass it on to you now to Gunnar Brune, who is our moderator and who will introduce your panelists.
Hello. Well, thank you very much, Petra, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining, especially Patrick Oehler, Felix Kühl, and Julian Leopold, who will present themselves in a second. The topic for this session is human resources, one of the most important things today when we talk about business development. Many times, artificial intelligence is being accused of robbing jobs and stuff like that, but this is not our topic today, and I would strongly disagree. Actually, our topic today is how artificial intelligence helps in finding more people for the open jobs, developing a strong workforce that knows what is to be done and learns together with the artificial intelligence, and develops the people who work in a company together with a company so that they all become stronger, better, and happier. Now, this may sound magic, and part of this magic are the three guests who will show this to us today, who are Felix Kühl of JobMatchMe, who will have the first of the sub-sessions today, then Patrick Oehler of Retorio, and Julian Leopold of Flowit. Please, Felix, Patrick, and Julian, introduce yourselves in just a few sentences. Maybe, Felix, you want to start.
Okay. Hi, thanks for the nice words, Gunnar. I'm Felix Kühl, as you already mentioned. I'm one of the co-founders of JobMatchMe, and at JobMatchMe currently responsible for everything that goes with product and dev. I'm very excited to talk to you today about how we use AI at JobMatchMe.
Wonderful. Patrick, you want to present yourself, please?
Sure. Patrick here, one of the co-founders of Retorio. We are a behavioral intelligence platform, and we use AI to identify and drive winning behaviors, mostly in enterprise organizations.
Wonderful. And Julian, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Gunnar. And hi, thank you everyone for coming. I'm Julian from Flowit. I'm an AI and business developer and have recently joined the team. And we're a people development platform. And I'll talk to you today about how we're going to use AI to support the process.
Wonderful. Now let's start with the elephant in the room. That is, everybody is looking for people. And to get the right person for the right job is not always easy and growing increasingly harder, especially since in the pandemic, many people evaluated their opportunities and maybe have found new opportunities. Felix Kühl of JobMatchMe is going to tell us how artificial intelligence can help filling the open positions and matching employees with employers. Felix, how does this work?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. All right.
Oh, you're a musician.
No, that was just for microphone testing. But okay, I hope you can see my screen now and everything works. So thanks for having me and welcome. At JobMatchMe, our mission is to redefine the way that employers and job seekers meet each other. And this goes especially for non-academic professionals, since we all know about the megatrend of skilled worker shortage. This is right where we think that intelligent solutions can make a huge difference. And first of all, let's start with why. Why do we need intelligent ways to connect? Why we need software to support this? And one of the obvious reasons is the shortage of candidates. Everyone who has tried to hire someone in the last couple of years will know that. And we have a large, overwhelming shortage of skilled workers, especially in non-academic professions, so-called blue-collar workers. So it becomes more and more challenging for companies to fill their positions and to find talent. And then the second reason, and that's the big one, is there is still a lot of friction in the process, which means that for people who are searching for a new job, it is incredibly difficult to do so, especially if you're not a digital native. So you have to search for open positions, you have to write a CV, you have to write application letters, you have to compare those jobs yourself, find out the fitting ones, and so on and so forth. So it is a very, very friction-heavy process, especially, and this is very important, take on the eyes of someone who has not grown with the digital age, might be non-academic, might not be used to using tools that we all might be more familiar with. And this is where we found the issue that we're trying to tackle, especially with Job Match Me, is that the majority of the effort for a job search still relies on the job seeker's side, which doesn't make any sense because the shortage is also on their side. And it makes it very, very hard for those people because there are just so many open positions that they have to go through. And having this process being so effortful makes it very hard. And if you flip the coin and take a look on the employer side, think about how good are your chances of actually being found by the right candidate. They become very, very tiny. And this is where we come in, and this is how intelligent softwares can help to improve this. If you take a look on the right side, this is how a job search would usually look like. You have to create a CV, then you go out and have to search for job ads, and you have to select the fitting ones. So you have to do the filtering yourself. You have to compare those jobs, create an application letter, and send those application letter together with your CV to potential jobs, and then pray for getting a response. And what we do is we make this much easier by providing people a job matching platform where job seekers can just very easily create a profile. They tell us what they're looking for, they tell us their qualifications, and they answer questions towards their personality. And we do the same on the employer side. So they give their job requirements, what are they looking for in a candidate, and how is their company culture. And what we do is we offer a matching algorithm that brings those two sides together. And for the job seeker, it becomes very easy. You just fill out your profile, you get the matching results, and you can just hit like, and you will be contacted by the employer. And this all goes within a few minutes. And today, since this is all about AI, I'm just going to show you how it looks, and then I'm going to show you how it works. The first thing, this is our actual system. You're going to answer, and this is an example of a truck driver searching for a job. You're going to answer things like which distance you want to drive. You're going to answer questions like, what's your personality, how are your personality traits. Then we're going to search for fitting jobs. And then you have a very easy to use matching UI where you can just say, okay, I like this job, please get in touch with me. And the main part of this, and the part that all of you are probably most interested in, is our algorithm, which is the central piece of everything of this coming together. And to show you how this works, let's just think about the job of a truck driver. So on the very left-hand side, you might have someone who is a truck driver, is searching for a new job. And then we have this job of a truck driver. That job has different attributes that you can associate with that job. The one example I picked out here because it's the most relatable probably is the salary. So this is just one part of the job that you might have. And as someone who seeks a job, you might have certain salary expectations. And then there's the other side. There is the job offer from the employer side that also offers a salary and many other things and has many other requirements. The most obvious thing you would do in an algorithm is to match that. You can say, okay, like we can take a look on how well the salary, for example, matches alongside all the other criteria. And then we can associate a weight to that. We can say, okay, how important is our salary for finding a new job? This all sounds very easy, but it gets more complicated once you take other factors into consideration. A very good example for that, especially with truck drivers, is that they drive different distances. There might be national driving, regional driving, or international driving. And what we learned very early on, or what our algorithm learned very early on, is that people might want to take a lower salary if they can be home with their families every weekend. So there might be another matching point where we consider distances versus salary that we would want to rank much higher than just the match of the salary itself. So this is just like a very simplified example of many things going on that can make up like a very easy algorithm that we can learn, that we can iterate, that we can match job seekers and employees for certain jobs. Something that is very important to us is also cross industry matching, which we call discovery. You might search for a job as a truck driver, but we might still be able to, for example, match you to another industry. Let's say you could also work in a warehouse. That might also be a job that that applies to your qualifications. So what we can do is, whoop, that was too far. What we can do is we can cross match you to other industries, because from the profile you gave us, we can say, okay, this also aligns with another potential job that you could match, and that would be fitting for you, and that you can also do based on your qualification levels. And if you fit all of that together, it becomes very complicated, it becomes very complex, it becomes a large algorithm that can learn, that can iterate, where we can adjust values and get people to discover jobs that they might not even have originally thought of. Talking about learning, this is how we can start, this is how we can iterate. But what people do in the matching is they can say, okay, we like this job, I might dislike that job, that might be a good fit, that might be a bad fit. From the employer side, we get feedback as well. We can say, okay, this was a good fitting candidate, this wasn't. We hired that one, we didn't hire that one. And we gather all this feedback, and this accumulates over time. And by having now more than 400,000 users on the platform, more than 20,000 matches every month, we gather a lot of data that we can use to iterate and optimize this whole process. So this is basically how we're working, and we're very proud of what we did so far. However, I just want to give you like a short glimpse into the future, and I've actually never really talked about this on any panel before, but I think it's very interesting to give you an outlook of what we learned and what we want to do in the future, because this whole algorithm is about to change quite drastically. And we're currently building on another system that will be much more complex, but will accommodate for many more scenarios. We will be focusing much more on so-called meta categories that will transcend job types and industries. So we will focus much more on job discovery over actual job search, because there's a huge potential, especially in non-academic job markets, where people might not even think that they would be applicable to this job, that might even suit their life situation much better than the job that they would originally search for. We see that in service and gastronomy industries a lot. We see that in logistics a lot. So we will focus much more on this cross-industry matching. We will do this by introducing more dynamic attributes, so the whole set of performances will be growing. We'll be moving the attributes from industries much more towards the center. We will be having pluggable matches so that we can be more rapid in learning and iterating and attaching new industries to the system. So the whole thing is becoming...
One minute is
left. I'm almost done. Will be becoming much more complex. And another very, very exciting thing that we're currently building is we're integrating with OpenAI and ChatGPT to do this matching right from natural language to reduce friction even more. People can just say what they want, and we can translate that into profiles and match them accordingly, which is all things that are currently in the works. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. And I think maybe we have time for one or two questions if there are any.
Yeah, well, we have, well, thank you very much. This has been inspiring, and we feel honored that you veil your secrets here for the future. And we have kind of a premiere to learn about the how people can get inspired to seek for new kinds of jobs. Yeah. Yeah, at the moment, we do not have a question, and I would like to encourage the audience to, I would like to encourage the audience to participate in posting questions, because in the end, we will have a question and answer session, a brief one though, but Felix, we will have...
Sorry, Gunnar. Felix, would you please stop screen sharing?
Yes. Did that work?
It worked great. And I would like to thank you and introduce Patrick Oehler on the stage and tell us something about once a person starts in a company, works well, they all are happy, and now people can improve even more, and you have a solution for that.
Yes, Gunnar, thanks for introducing me. I hope you can hear me and hopefully you can also see my screen.
We can. This looks great.
Yes, so the marketing team did a good job on designing our slides. So maybe to talk a little bit more about what Ritorio is, and then I will dig a little bit deeper into our AI use case. As I said in the beginning, I'm Patrick, one of the co-founders of Ritorio. We're actually a university spin-off. So my co-founder Christoph and I, we did our PhDs in behavioral research at the Technical University of Munich. And what we share is this vision for building a world where basically every person and every employee has access to their own personal coaching AI. And ultimately, we want to help people activate the best version of themselves. A lot of research went, and now we've been on the market for almost 5 years, and we're serving quite a bunch of huge enterprise clients, but also mid-sized companies all around the world. But I want to start by talking a little bit about something completely different. I want to talk about surfing. So we're actually based in Munich, and so this is quite far away from the sea, obviously. So whenever I'm on vacation, I try to go to the beach and go surfing. But the problem as a Munich-born, more of a mountain person, is that I have no clue about surfing. So whenever I try surfing, I basically have the same experience. I start swimming out into the waves with a lot of ambition, and then the first wave hits me and usually drags me underwater. And once I make it to the surface, 20 seconds later, the next wave hits me and drags me down further. And at some point, I'm being spilled out at the beach, and that is my holiday, right? And this feeling of being hit by one after another wave, that very much reminds me of this whole situation we've been going through over the last few years together, right? Starting with COVID, this new wave of this crazy disease that hit us. And the moment we started breathing and made it to the surface, then the war in Ukraine started, and we have climate change, there's banking crisis, now ChatGPT hit us, and so on. And what we see, and obviously all our clients also see, is that there's so much change and volatility nowadays, and it's very, very hard to keep up, right? And out of this change and volatility, there's an enormous pressure to upskill your workforce, right? Unfortunately, we observed that 84% of companies fail at upskilling their teams. This is actually data from the World Economic Forum. And as a result, 72% of people won't reach their individual goals this year. And this number is very much based on sales teams where individual goals are very easy to measure. But we observe that in most companies right now, people basically don't achieve the goals that they set themselves. And why is that the case, right? So problem is all this volatility, right? Lots of investments and training programs. I think companies jointly invest 300 billion euros every year in all kinds of different training approaches, coachings and so on. The problem is behavior change, changing your behavior and adjusting it to new market conditions very much requires self-reflection. Self-reflection requires personal feedback. It's very hard to change yourself without understanding, what kind of effect you have on your environment, what your behavior really means. That requires individual coaching. Coaching is very hard to scale, right? So it's very expensive to coach big organizations with sometimes hundreds, sometimes tens of thousands of employees. And this is where we come into play. So with Ritorio, we built what we call a behavioral intelligence platform. And this platform allows us to identify and drive winning behaviors for our clients. And among our clients are major German automotive companies. Some of those logos down there. We work with some of the world's biggest insurance groups. We work with logistics companies, with pharma organizations. And all they have in common is that they're facing, major transformations. They need to evolve and develop, sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of people at the same time. And at the same time, they need to become faster and faster. And at the same time, they can't spend as much money as they might have done in the past, right? And so how do we do this? Well, we use AI to do that. I will dig a little bit deeper into our AI, which is a little bit special, I'd say. But our approach of developing organizations is that, first of all, we invite top performers within the organization that already do a good job and that already adopted to change. and we invite them to participate in simulations. Could be video simulations where we simulate typical everyday situations, for instance, client conversations, and we analyze their behavior. So we find out what makes them successful. How do the top performers act differently from the people that have a hard time? And then we use our AI to take these best practices and distribute them to the rest of the team by inviting the rest of the team to participate in similar simulations. And the AI basically helps the rest of the team to improve. And what is very unique about what we do is that everything we do is video based. So based out of our research, we develop an AI that understands human behavior, communication, and also personality from video data. And so it first of all describes what people do in a video setting, right? We record people and their behavior on video. And we analyze their gesture, their voice, their language. So basically all aspects of communication. And then we interpret the behavior and basically predict how this behavior, for instance, is perceived by other people in the organization or by clients. And we can do this with scientifically validated and highly accurate models. And just to make this more concrete, so this is an example here from one of our automotive clients, and they use us to teach their salespeople around the world to sell electric cars, right? And the problem is our clients themselves might not necessarily know how to sell electric cars because it's a completely new product category, right? So what we did is we invited the best performers in the world that already sell a lot of electric cars into video simulations where we simulate typical client situations, right? Typical client concerns. And our AI analyzes their behavior. It looks for patterns, right? It finds out how do they communicate, right? How do they pitch a product differently, right? How do they deal with certain questions that clients might ask? And then we give very in-depth feedback, right? So our AI analyzes, how they communicate in terms of emotional motives they trigger. Our AI analyzes the language that the salespeople uses. It analyzes their personality. In this way, we can find out, what behaviors, what aspects really drive performance. And then we build trainings where we invite the rest of the organization to basically go through similar video simulations, and we analyze their behavior, right? And we help them learn and find out how their best colleagues, in this case, sell electric cars. And the beauty of it is the more data we get into the system, right, the better we understand what the success patterns really are, right? And so we can track learning progress and see how different batches of users, change. Are they really able to adjust their behaviors? Do they change the way they communicate? In this way, we can not only scale individual coaching, but we can also measure the effectiveness of existing training programs and figure out, which programs really result in substantial behavior change. And some of our clients also use our technology for recruitment purposes. This is more of a sort of side use case, where then based on the best practices you identified in your team, you can start screening applicants, guide them through similar video simulations and see if they show personality traits or also behavioral patterns that match the profiles of the best performers within the organization, right? And this way you close a feedback loop. We call it spot, hire, and develop, through which you better and better understand what your organization is really about, what really drives success in the organization, and you can hire, onboard, and train people more effectively. And there's some pretty strong results we're observing. So on average, the average client observes that 80% of their workers or employees improve their behavior within 3 months. In sales, we observe significant improvements in sales quotas. And at the same time, we see that employees really like this new approach of training because it's very anonymous, right? You can train in a psychological safe space. We can anonymize all our analysis.
Patrick,
and this way,
1 minute.
Yeah, this way you can receive very intimate, very direct feedback, but at the same time, ensure that no other human person is involved, right? And this creates the sort of psychological safe space, and that leads to high acceptance rates. And when we use the technology in recruitment, we see that the likelihood of mishiring, and especially for customer-centric positions, can be reduced quite substantially. And we can also speed up the whole sales onboarding, recruitment, onboarding and training process, and also make it a lot more cost effective. So I still don't have any clue about surfing, but if you want to ride this wave of transformation together with us, feel free to go on our website. You can book a free demo there. I can also give you access to a trial version, and also feel free to connect to me. And I'm looking forward to 1 or 2 questions if there are any.
Well, thank you very much. This has been fascinating. I look at the chat and we have questions coming in, but I understand them being questions for Felix, so we will ask them later. I would like to take the opportunity, since we have accelerated in time already, to ask Julian on the stage.
Yes.
And Julian, he's of Flowit, and they help. Now we're on a story here. So we have hired people, we have trained them, and now we want to develop the company and the people, and we want all to be even better. And we all know this. These talks, these target talks, can be quite challenging if you don't do that all the time. But fear not, Julian has you covered.
All right. Thank you very much, Gunnar. And thank you to my previous speakers. Patrick, we can go surfing together. I also enjoy surfing very much, but I have the same problem as you. So first of all, what's Flowit? So classic HR is often, as you can see in this comic picture, you have a manager who has a review talk with you every 6 months or every year, and then they tell you what you maybe did not so good 5 months ago. Who knows what you did 5 months ago? Nobody remembers. And you're somehow supposed to improve this. And that was very much the observation of our founders. And what they said is, that's a bit outdated. They said, I find your lack of feedback disturbing. And they said, hey, it's time to rethink people development. And the whole idea started with cards. So it starts with these skill cards, or they can also be value cards. And the idea is that you have an employee who selects 2 to 4 cards. These cards can be innovation, leadership, teamwork, ambition. And then the employee defines their own personal goal. How do I want to improve my particular card? And then in an evaluation period, you get feedback from your peers, from your superiors, about how you are developing and how you are doing with regards to this particular skill. And the evaluation period can be everything. It can be 3 months, it can be 3 weeks, whatever is adequate for that particular skill and that in that team. So what you get is you get instant feedback, you get 360-degree feedback from everyone who is relevant, and you have a much better picture of how am I performing, what can I do to improve. And this creates then a basis for a meaningful review meeting where you can actually say, hey, this went well, this didn't go so well. So that's the core idea of the Flowit app, but we have a lot of different modules. So I just presented to you the performance module. We also have an engagement module for surveys within the company, be that pulse surveys or satisfaction surveys. We have a development module to develop the company as a whole, develop new roles, develop new skills, and a growth module, which is basically a learning management system. Now, you might be saying, well, that's cool, Julian, but like, what about AI? And indeed, there is many potential applications of AI in this field that we're in. We could, for example, forecast the performance of individuals, of new hires. We could predict when an individual would leave. We could detect anomalies. And of course, we can automate a whole bunch of things. And since as Flowit, we have different modules, we are implementing and using AI in many different areas. But maybe slightly different from my previous speakers, AI is not at the core of our platform. At the core are still people and developing these people. We use AI in many different areas to support HR managers to support employees to empower them. And now that being said, I think I have 3 very meaningful use cases that I want to present to you on how we use AI. So the first one is an AI coach, and what you have to imagine is we have a lot of blue-collar clients. We have a lot of people who don't spend all the time behind a computer and who don't have time and not the wish to take part in week-long feedback trainings. However, it's very important that we hear from these people and that we get feedback from these people. So the first use case is an AI coach, which can help everyone formulate feedback. And the way that works is that the coach is able to tell you, hey, if you formulate feedback like this, this is how it might be received. Maybe that's a bit harsh. Do you want to send it this harsh? Or do you want to maybe rephrase it and then make suggestions? So what you have to imagine is we're using GPT-4, the GPT-4 API in the background. And you have to imagine it a bit like Grammarly or languagetool.org, if you know those, to give you suggestions on how you can formulate feedback. We also use the same feature for formulating goals. Say you have a construction worker who wants to improve on a certain card, say on leadership, but he has no idea what he could potentially improve. Then we can use this large language model, this GPT model, to make suggestions how he might improve. Now, the second use case, that's one I'm very excited about because I've recently worked on it, that is automated survey analysis. And what we have in big companies is you have thousands of employees and they all have an opinion. But right now you often lack the capacity of asking everyone and sort of getting feedback from everyone. And even if you do conduct these surveys, then you have people in HR who spend weeks evaluating these answers, reading through every single answer and trying to find the main topics. And what we can do with the technology that by now everyone knows since November last is we can detect the sentiment of the answers. Were they positive, were they negative? We can detect the main topics. So that is sentiment analysis for you and topic modeling. And then we can summarize different batches of answers and see, okay, well, what were the main concerns of the employees? And we go even further, we can suggest measures to the HR managers so they don't end up with thousands of text replies, or maybe they haven't even asked for text replies because they can't deal with that load of data. We give them a report with the main topics, the main concerns of the employees, and with suggestions on how might you act. One thing that is important here, in the recent months, we have seen that these large language models, I'm talking of ChatGPT, GPT-4, they have a tendency to hallucinate sometimes, and they're not perfect. And therefore, it's very important to have a human in the loop who goes over the answers and checks and can immediately flag if something seems not correct. So with this whole analysis, we don't want to replace the HR managers. What we want to do is we want to empower them to be more in a coaching role and have the ability to develop the organization. Now, the third use case for AI I have brought to you is what I called a data suite for managers. And now when we have all this data about employees, about their personal goals, about their satisfaction from the last surveys, and about their performance, the feedback they receive, what we can do is we can plan how to develop these companies these employees in our own company. We see maybe this role is going to be empty, and then we can find, okay, well, who is the best matching person and how might we have to develop this person in the future? What we can also do is anomaly detection. So if we find weird behavior somewhere, say a performance dropped or the satisfaction of someone dropped, then we can go in there and see, well, what happened here, and we can actually automatically notify the responsible team lead, the HR manager, hey, you know, go in there, talk to this person, make a meeting, something doesn't seem right there. And what this does is it just creates a huge like chunk of time and gives back this time to leaders. One thing we're working on is the churn probability of different employees or different teams. As you might know, it's very important if an employee whom you trained, whom you taught all this knowledge, leaves your company. Until you have replaced this employee, it just costs a lot of money. And if we can keep this employee, and that's a huge value for the company. So that is one use case we're working on right now, to see in which teams are people at a risk of leaving, and then empower the HR managers to see and maybe talk to them and see how they can make things right.
Julian, 1 minute.
Thank you. Now, as one final bonus, I have brought you a value image because we work a lot with the values of companies. Our tool enables companies to make employees aware of their values, and then through pulling value cards, employees can decide, well, how do I want to work on these particular values? And one thing that we're experimenting with is creating images from these values. So I bet you've all heard of DALL-E. And we've created this value image for one of our clients with DALL-E. And this is a more creative application, but it serves as a great basis for a discussion of the values of the company. And this image was created by the feedback that the employees gave on questions. What do the values mean to you? And that's sort of a brain teaser of where we might go in the future, and all the creative applications for generative AI that we're going to explore in the next few months and years. That's it from me. Thank you very much. And if you want to go surfing with me and Patrick, or just connect with me and chat about AI or HR, then find our website, find me on LinkedIn, and drop me an email. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. This has been also fascinating. And just now there came a question concerning directly you, because you were talking about using OpenAI, the ChatGPT platform. And there's quite a discussion at the moment about the data privacy within that platform.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Are you just happy being in Switzerland and being out of GDPR, or does it apply to you as well?
No, it definitely applies to us. And we actually comply with the German data security rules, because they are more strict, and we expect that in the fall of this year, Switzerland is going to make even stricter rules. So then we're going to stick with those. So at the moment, what we do is we anonymize all the data, but I've read yesterday that Microsoft is going to provide the ability to host your GPT instance privately, so on your own personal server. And that is definitely something we're going to look into, but that'll just be made available in the next few months.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody of the others would like to add on that? Because I think that's an issue that many people are thinking about at the moment. Patrick, Felix, do you have anything concerning the question of privacy and ChatGPT or GPT as a whole?
I think
you can go first, Felix.
Yeah, I think for as I mentioned, we're currently integrating GPT as well. However, for us, it's not so much of an issue because we're not really forwarding any kind of personal data or any like data sets that we have processed through that. We're gonna more use it as like an alternative way into the matching, so people can you know, type in what they're searching for, which of course is somewhat personal data. However, we will never associate that to any account or something. We'll just, you know, use it for plain text processing, take back the structured data set, and then everything else happens within our system, and we'll never forward out any kind of data sets to GPT. But however, I've also read about the private instances, which will be very interesting for more complex data processing.
Yeah. Anything to add, Patrick? Because otherwise I would jump to the questions.
I think we can jump further. Yeah, I think I have not much to add to ChatGPT.
So the first question that came up was I will read it out from Akram Askar. At the beginning of your journey, and this I think applies to Felix, you had to start developing your own AI algorithm. How did you connect job seekers with the company? Since for this kind of area, I guess you can't get open source data to bootstrap the first version. Thank you. So how did you start?
Yeah, that's
AI, and then yeah, please.
That's a very, very good question, actually, and like a very nice story to tell. So obviously, the first thing you do is when you want to approach something that requires larger data sets is you have to start on very, very small. And what we did is actually we left the office, we got into the car, and since we started with truck drivers, that's why I still use this example. And it's one of our like very core industries, very close to our heart. We just drove out to any places where truck drivers meet, gather, park, stay, and we talk to those people. And that's the first thing. Trying to understand humans is very important when you try to tackle something like artificial intelligence, because the comparison between like a qualification profile and a job profile, that's a very human topic. So you would give those two sheets to a human and you read cross and say like, okay, this kind of matches. And we humans, we're very good and in implicitly understanding how different attributes affect each other. And this is why you want to use artificial intelligence to automate that, because this is what it's meant for. So what we did is we started talking to the people, we tried to understand them. And for the first couple of months, what we did is we had the system put every qualification profile into a Trello board, and same with business customers until this board exploded of like 20,000 cards. And then we stopped doing that. And what we did is we did it very manually. We had matching experts sitting down, doing the matching manually, writing things down, understanding the industry, and then kind of automate from there, and then gather feedback, do A/B tests, iterate on the algorithm, adjust the weights, gather feedback. So you have to start actually understanding what you're doing. The AI you want to build is only as good as the person understands the subject of matter building it. So this is kind of how we bootstrapped. We just built the data set ourselves, but we tried to start with understanding the people we're building the system for.
Well, thank you very much for this answer, especially because it tells how much human work is being put into a so-called artificial intelligence, because there's so much, categorizing and qualifying of people in there, and it's not just something that comes out of space. Thank you very much for that perspective. So there was another question, and that is by Svenja Schmidt, and I understand it's also to Felix. So you are starting with blue collar. Do you think about expanding for students and white collar as well?
Oh yeah, that's also a very nice question. So first of all, the blue collar thing is something that the reason why we did that is when we started out, we saw that there is many kind of solutions, especially tackling academic professions. And what we found out is that there is basically nothing going really for non-academics and blue collars, although these people still make up the majority of our job market. So we saw a large problem there and a lack of solutions, and that's why we especially started with that. I would never say no, we're not going to go into other sectors like white collar workforces as well. However, our main focus will stay for now blue collar workers, because there's still many more industries within that context that we will want to tackle, not only in Germany. So this will be our main focus for now. Answering the student part is also very interesting, because when we started out in the service and food sector, just after COVID, when the restaurants were reopening, we got into that sector as well. We noticed that there were many people coming to the platform searching for student jobs, and that was actually something that worked really, really well. That's something we're definitely looking into a lot. And we know that especially in those industries, quite a portion of our user base is of that demographic category. So yeah, that's very interesting. I think especially for those people, it makes so much sense to just change this very, very old and unchanged application process, get rid of CVs, get rid of all the complexity, and just make it easy, get people to meet. That's why matching platforms are successful. And I don't see why there should be any limit to just one sector. So yeah, the plan is expansion, but we'll take one step after another.
Well, thank you very much. And I think this is very valuable, not only for economy, but also for society. Yeah, these are all the questions, but I have one remaining for Patrick, because I was fascinated by the scope of how you capture behavior. And I would really like to know how you got started. What was your first step, like the Trello boards that Julian told us about, to build your system?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like every startup in the beginning, we had this kind of chicken and egg problem that we didn't have clients in the beginning, no money and no data. And what made it a little bit easier for us is that we're a research spin-off, right? So we basically had 5 years of doing PhD research at the Technical University Munich, and we could use our research projects and the funding that we got for these projects to basically build data sets and play around with them and build sort of generic models that quantify behavior, right? Those models quite often we could combine with open source models and so on. And this way, step by step, we could build a first sort of behavioral layer that would allow us to describe behavior from video data. And then we started, with all the client data that we get to build models on top, right? But yeah, we were very lucky that we didn't have to start from scratch, and that we basically had several years to build big data sets and refine them and test them in a sort of non-commercial setting, and then take these models to our first clients at a point where they could do some things already. And then we learned with the client data that we got on top.
Oh, well, thank you for this. This is kind of adds up to what Julian said. There's a whole lot of human brain work in the so-called artificial intelligence. Well, thank you very much for all this. I would lead to Petra, who might have a final question, because
actually just a comment, because the skilled workers shortage and also creating a productive, nurturing and motivating environment are topics that are not just very important right now in Germany, but also around the world, especially in the US. And so having startups working on these topics, and again, like we had before, working together with corporates and tackling this, makes me very hopeful and very excited. And thank you very much, Julian, Felix, Patrick, and Gunnar, for this motivating panel. And also, again, my other advertising block for the next session, we are tackling another big problem, which is climate change. And there we will have a fireside chat on carbon markets and AI, the dynamic duo. Thank you very much, and hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.